On this episode of In Lifting Color, we have Kev, aka Kolossal Kev. We speak to him about his experiences with diversity as a member and coach in the CrossFit community. And we also touch on that he has a new app coming out. See you there.
Welcome to In Lifting Color. I'm Jess.
I'm Brandon.
And we have a special guest today. Whoop whoop. So we're going to let him introduce himself.
Wait, Kolossal Kev. And yeah, man, I'm here. I'm in the flesh. I'm on In Living Color with my folks. And we're going to get down to it, man. I'm excited. I'm happy for the new venture. And more happy for the cause personally. So.
Yes. Where are you from, Kev?
Originally, I'm from North Philadelphia, so like Temple area, 15th and Clearfield, 15th and Allegheny.
Oh, snap.
I did my dirty work. But I've lived all up and down the East Coast, but yeah, born and raised in North Philly for the majority of my life up until my early 20s.
And now where are you at?
Right now, I'm right outside of Manhattan. I'm in Jersey City, downtown Jersey City.
Woo woo.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Okay. So primarily the people we have been interviewing are associated with CrossFit. What brought you to the genre of fitness that is CrossFit?
So around 2013, I started training with D1 Athletics, and one of the head guys there was a CrossFit guy. He was introducing a lot of CrossFit style workouts in our like conditioning, and there was like, I won't admit, but there was a few dudes there that were like really good at the CrossFit and not so much the athleticism. And I think we kind of understand what type of dudes those were. They were just like engine athletes, and they were beating me in these workouts. But like when it came time to do anything athletic, whether it be broad jump, sprint, agility ladders, I was really good. But I wanted to be better at the CrossFit style stuff. So I just dug into it. I started reading books. I started watching CrossFit games, and before you know it, I was down in Florida in a CrossFit gym, and I was just fully invested.
Nice.
That's good.
I didn't know all that. That's interesting.
I mean, that's usually how it goes for a former
I'm not a former
collegiate athlete. You're looking for that competitiveness a little bit still.
But how have you noticed or experienced diversity in the other gyms as members, like, or even like just seeing different classes? Like I think we've talked about how there's a lack of diversity in CrossFit, but I'm talking as a member. I think as a coach you have a different perspective because you see a bunch of different classes throughout the day. You see like a 5 a.m., you see 6, 12, like, so you're able to see like the gamut of classes. How has your experience been seeing diversity in CrossFit gyms or in CrossFit spaces or even at competitions?
Oh man, it's scary, if any. And I think that's one of the bigger issues, right? Like as a member. And I said this to one of my buddies, in anything you do as a black person or a person of color, you're gonna gravitate towards people that look and act and talk like you, right? So that was one of the biggest things in CrossFit before I became a coach, right? And I was in the South, so I'm going to gyms and I'm just looking to get a good workout and some camaraderie, some friendship, whatever. And I wasn't finding that in a lot of places because of you walk in, there's like country music blaring, everybody's looking at you with like you got something written on your forehead, like you're not supposed to be there. And I'm being 100% real about it, you know what I mean? And it definitely rubbed me the wrong way for my start, and even up until now, this is a true story, I would go to a gym's Facebook and Instagram page, and I would look through their photos to see if they were like, black people or, people of color, or just some sort of diversity to make me feel comfortable before going in there. Because I'm already a big personality. I'm going to say what's on my mind. I'm going to speak my mind. So I know if I'm going into a situation that I don't feel comfortable to begin with, the slightest thing is going to not trigger me in a bad way, but just trigger me to speak up and take up for myself. So rather than put myself in those situations, I would pre-screen the gym before even going.
Wow,
and,
yeah.
And that's just the work that I had to do as a member, as a CrossFit enthusiast. And I felt it was a little bit much to even have to do that, but for my own sake and my own sanity and my own safety, for the most part, I was going out of my way to do that.
Yeah.
Let me ask this, and you touched on it a little bit, since you started in Florida, but do you feel a difference in culture? Does that culture carry over, like that South culture versus the Northeast culture, does that carry over into the gyms as well? And like also, did you feel more comfortable going to a new gym in the Northeast without pre-screening like you did in the South?
Yeah, I'll be 100% like as transparent as possible with that. There's still that stigma. Like you're still going into a unfamiliar territory, for lack of better terms, as a person of color, a black person. It's still going to be, you're still going to be outnumbered by a lot going into a CrossFit space. But the one thing that I personally didn't feel I needed to do was pre-screen the gyms in the Northeast. When I moved back to the Northeast in 2017, I knew the demographic. Like I'm from Philly, so I knew what I was kind of walking into. I knew that, like, all right, I'm still going to be outnumbered as a black CrossFitter because there's just not many of us. There's a representation from the highest level on down to the local box level. It just wasn't there. So I knew I would still be outnumbered, but the type of person I was dealing with was going to change slightly. Not 100%, but slightly.
Yeah.
We'll just say it for what it is, some of the Confederacy that I was dealing with in the South, I knew I wouldn't have to deal with as much in the North. I would still see it at some points, but I wasn't seeing it as poignant, if that makes sense. In the South, it was, you walk into a gym, where people hang their flags, right? You got the firefighter, the police flag, and you usually have the American flag in the CrossFit gym. And then you'll have certain armed forces, right? And in some of those gyms, depending where you're at, you might see a flag that we all kind of ain't too fond of right now. You're going to see that Confederacy.
Right.
And you're going to see it on their cars. You're going to see it on their, they got wrist straps, you know what I mean? Whatever you can think of that identified with the sport, they were putting that marker on it. And I just knew that the type of person I was, I didn't want to be around that. Right. But given the circumstances and where I lived, I was going to have to experience it at some point. But I could pick and choose where I could, put my dollars at in terms of where I was going to do CrossFit.
So it's funny that you bring that up because I think some of the terms that you're talking about, I think there's a discomfort, and that's why I think we started this channel, was because it's not just about CrossFit diversifying. It's about the safety that Black people feel in general in the country, in the space that we occupy. And kind of like you're saying, there are places in the South that Black people, I know myself, I can't speak for all Black people, we are not Black Google, but I know that there's places that I think of and I'm like, oof, will I feel safe in certain parts of Florida? Will I feel safe in certain parts of Alabama, Mississippi, these states where where racism still, because that was where, in the South, slavery was heavy, so there's these racial undertones that are still carrying forward to this day. And even like you're saying, I pre-screened in the South, but not as much in the North. There are still spaces in general that Black people feel concerned for their safety, for the thoughts that people have about Black people being not welcome, and kind of thinking about if you have Black and brown members in a gym in general, there's these undertones that they have in their lives before they walk in the gym, when they walk out, and how can we make those spaces safe for people while they're in the gym. So I think that's an important aspect of our lives in general that you bring up, not just in the gym. So that's, yeah.
And not to make it about that, but I think there's definitely a safety, red light or alert that goes off. That portion of your brain is gonna, if your fight or flight is gonna tick at some point, and especially with tension high in the country. And at the time I moved out there, Florida was getting a lot for the Trayvon Martin case. It was around the same time that George Zimmerman got acquitted, and Florida's concealed carry state. So, it was definitely, and I'll give credit to the gyms that I was a member of, not the gyms I dropped into, but the gyms I was a member of did a very good job of trying their best to alleviate that avenue. You know what I mean? So, and then sometimes they didn't get it always right, but for the most part, especially at Crazy Train CrossFit, they do a tremendous job of speaking up for Black and brown people and LGBTQ rights. They're probably the most inclusive gym. They are the most inclusive gym I was ever a member of And still to this day, I just recently dropped in, and and obviously it's a friend of mine who owns the gym, but
yeah.
I think it says a lot about the people, the company we keep, people who are going to stand on that front line with you and do what's right, stay on the right side of history.
So what do you think in terms of the direction of CrossFit in general, CrossFit boxes in general? Do you think now, or even from when you started, the direction of more inclusiveness is in the right direction, I should say? And maybe even, do you have ideas that could help that process?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. Is it more inclusive now than then? I think that's what you said, right, Brad?
Yeah.
In terms of, I think there's always like something that has to happen, which it shouldn't be this way, but there's always something that has to happen to shift change, right? For the pendulum to start to swing. And I don't know I know you guys were in CrossFit at the time, but there was an issue with the LGBTQ community and a transgender CrossFit athlete that shifted CrossFit's perspective on their rights and inclusivity in terms of CrossFit. I think it was around 2014 or 15. I don't know the exact date, but it was a young lady out in Las Vegas, I believe, who was trying to get her rights to compete as a trans athlete.
Yeah.
It set the CrossFit community on fire that then. And, they probably didn't react as soon as as quick as they possibly could have, but it did start to shift. It did start to shift that narrative. And sorry, I was flicking at my dog. And,
I assumed.
Same thing here with which we're hoping to see with Black Lives Matter, right? And our whole movement, and just us feeling included, right? And feeling the equality or the equity even, right, with CrossFit. So I think you'll start to see it. My biggest thing as a former coach and a local level athlete and as a member and as an enthusiast of the sport, you just want to see action behind the words, right?
Yeah.
So you can choose to, some people have de-affiliated, some haven't, some are choosing to, figure it out. Whatever you choose, that's your prerogative. But me personally, I want to see the actions come behind the words. So if they do them and they do them correctly, everything that they outline, then cool. I mean, that's a gain for the Black community. Like I'd be a fool or I'd be a hypocrite to be against them doing good for the community.
Yeah.
But if it comes in any form of like malice or what do you call it, colonizing, then I have a problem with that. I have a real problem with that. But if they're doing it in genuine and generosity, then I want to see it happen.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. I won't say I'm for it or I'm against it right now, but I want to see it happen.
What do you think? Because I think something that you brought up was about Crazy Train CrossFit, and like that you just felt like it was kind of like a top down. I'm sure. Like I think if like the gym owners have a certain like mannerism and they're presenting themselves as an ally and they're having the conversation, they're making people of color feel supported and safe, then it trickles down to the members. But do you think it's each gym, or do you think it comes from the top down like CrossFit HQ to then instill that in these affiliate owners?
I think it definitely comes from top down. But you're going to have a few rebels who feel like, hey, I don't have to operate with the ideology of HQ. I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Crazy Train CrossFit and a few other gyms have kind of like broken off and decided to stand on their own principles. But when you're dealing with a machine like CrossFit, a lot of the people, once again, like we said earlier, they're going to attract the people who are attracted to it, right? So like if the head of the snake is one way, he's going to attract people that are very similar to him to either own boxes, to work at CrossFit HQ, to even do CrossFit. I spoke on that on another show about how it's so systemic the way CrossFit operates, even down to the workouts and how there's very little true athleticism at the CrossFit Games, right? Like there's a lot of VO2 max and endurance and things like that. But like if you're really going to call ourselves the fittest, you're going to call yourselves the fittest on earth and not include real aspects of athleticism, I feel like that was a way to kind of like surreptitiously shut the door on athletes that look like me, Brandon, and yourself, you know, because we understand that like we are athletic, right? So in that way, if you even the playing field and you throw a little more athleticism in there, mixed with those old methodologies, then you really shake the table. You see who's really the fittest on earth, right? Rather than doing it all one way. So I think from the top down, CrossFit has always had its hand around, the black athlete and then the black business owner and then the black HQ member. It's very like systemic in how they're gonna put you out there or promote you, if any.
There's like agility type things, like you could, jumping side to side, like the plane is always forward. Always forward. They never do anything drastically change of direction, and maybe even pick something up on your way that you're trying, like just showing that people have to jump around and hand-eye. There's no hand-eye coordination, really.
There is not a lot, except for jumping up to the pull-up bar.
Yeah, but
that's just me.
The agility, right? The agility factor is missing in that, and I think when you look at all major sports, even it might maybe not golf, right? But most of those major sports, you're gonna see like tremendous displays of agility, and that's being able to change direction without losing much velocity or speed.
So, in talking about like diversifying, we don't want CrossFit to be just all white. Like it's not a white out of a gym. So how do we get to a place where we can talk about race in these community spaces? Because that's what they want to be, community fitness, right? So then how are we addressing all members of our community, and how can we have those conversations? Because I feel like CrossFit still hasn't come out and said Black Lives Matter. They've said that they haven't. Like they've said like we, yeah, and it's like why is it so scary to say Black Lives Matter? Like how is it okay for you to say let's diversify, but we can't say Black Lives Matter?
You know why?
Tell us.
People, and this is like no knock to the new CEO of CrossFit, right? But when people are comfortable, they don't want to get uncomfortable, right? And CrossFit's been in a comfortable space for 15 years now, where they haven't had to have the conversation, they haven't had to say anything, and they thought by, changing the tire on their Ferrari, they would escape the race, and that's not true. That's the analogy of, to me, what they did. They switched out Greg for this new guy, and the new guy, I did my research on his IG for the extent of research that I did, and he's down with like some social change and stuff, which is cool, but that doesn't negate the fact that you guys didn't say it when you had to say it, and I think they're gonna sit on the side of they're still kind of comfortable,
right.
And I know we've been doing a lot of work and we've been pushing the envelope a little more and trying to move the goalposts for them to speak up, I guess to say the least. But I have a saying that I got from my grandma, and it's true, right? If you have to tell someone to do the right thing, that was never the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I kind of I always say I threw in the towel, but I'm not going to ask them, and nor should any other black person or person of color. If they want to do the right thing, they'll do it.
Yeah.
But
if we have to continuously tell you what to do, that means it wasn't in your heart to do it.
Yeah.
But do you think?
After that week long, we waited for Dave Castro or Greg Glassman, whoever was still in there, to say what they needed to say, and they didn't do it. I kind of was like, I'm good. I'm gonna move on with or without you. So, and I advise every black and brown person and person of color, and even white allies, and whoever, to stand on that. Like,
Yeah.
I'll push them to do the right thing. They're grown boys and girls. And they can figure it out.
Yeah.
So with that said, you say it should start from the top down, but a lot of me feels like in this situation, it only matters at the bottom. If you want to call it the bottom, I don't like calling it.
Like at the gyms.
Yeah, like it really just only matters at the gyms, because how many black people really, if there is, like me or you, do we really check HQ's information of like advice and stuff? Like most of the stuff that we've learned was from the local level anyway. You know, all getting other black people to even do CrossFit was just at the local level anyway. We weren't really trying to say, yo, we need to be the creme de la creme. Let's try to be on that L1 staff. Let's try to get into that. Like we just want people in the gym, just period. Just so there's more of us in the gym, period. Like I started doing local competitions, not necessarily to make it to the games, but just to have a representation of our skin color in the area, and mostly like teen and young 20s, because that's what I was at the time, knowing that we can do this too. And several times, a lot of times, you know, a kid would come up to me, or even a young adult would come up to me that was black or Hispanic, would come up to me like, yo, you're my idol. And I'm just a regular dude. It's like, I look up to you. Yo, you make me feel like I can do this too. So I'm just like, to me, I feel like the battle should just be right here at this local level. And the more numbers that are at the local level, then I feel like it will trickle up.
Yeah, like
because that's where the money starts anyway.
Yeah, like
that's really the stem of all the problems, is the money aspect. Because HQ just wants to stay rich. If they don't make any moves, then they're going to lose all their money. But if the local levels gets more diverse, then they're going to have to do something.
Right, and the local level gyms, like we need more of those feelings of like Crazy Town CrossFit, where I don't know if that's their name anymore, but Crazy Town CrossFit, like we need more of those. Crazy Train.
Crazy
Oopsie,
Train.
sorry.
They're on the train tracks. It's all good.
They're on the got it. Ugh.
Town.
I don't know where Crazy Town came from. Anyway, like we need those gyms, or like a gym like mine. Like we need more True Fitnesses where the owners are like, you know, the owner of my gym said, you know, I didn't need anybody to tell me that what that man said was wrong. Like I didn't need to be told. As soon as he said it, I was like, no, Black Lives Matter, we're out. And like, you know, now she's, you know, getting the word into having like more conversations. How can we have more conversations with our gym members about these experiences? And like he said, like, is there a way that we can flip it where it can start from the bottom, and these gyms and these people in power at the gyms, the owners, the coaches, can lead the charge and say, well, like your grandma said, we don't need somebody up top to tell us that what they're saying is wrong. We need to start here and say, what we're doing in our family is this because this is right. Like, how can that be a thing?
I think Brandon did it, right? Like, it could work either way, right? There's always, everyone hates the same, but there's always more than one skin cat, right? Not one skin cat. But there's always more than one way, and maybe that was the way of the past, and maybe that's how I see it, right? Like, oh, it is a top-down effect, because maybe that's just how I view it, right? But that doesn't mean that growing up from the bottom like a tree or like a shoelace doesn't work either, right? You gotta tie your shoes from the bottom up. Yeah. So it could work both ways, and I think the way that does work is with gyms like True Fit and Crazy Train. They're kind of, and I guess it's kind of like a top-down approach within that small space, right?
Well, yeah, that's where
our coaches of that gym believe one way, therefore that'll, you know, kind of spread out to their members, and hopefully they start to have some of those one-on-one tough conversations, which I don't even think are tough conversations. I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps like, yo, I have to have these tough conversations. No, that's not a tough conversation. A tough conversation is saying like, yo, George Floyd died and was murdered because someone decided to put their knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That's a tough conversation to have with anybody. Because it's inhumane, right?
Right.
But telling someone that Black Lives Matter, and this is why we matter, and equity matters, and equality matters, that's not hard. Racism is real. That's not hard. You had history, you know what I'm saying? At this point, you're 20 plus, you've been through all the schooling you need to be through to have a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I tell people all the time, my fiance is white, I'm black. We've had conversations, we've been together 7 years, we've had conversations out to wazoo. I mean, this shit been going on before both of us was here, right? Right. But they're not tough conversations.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, it's a tough conversation when you're dealing with someone who ain't trying to see eye to eye with you.
Right. Right.
And then it's not even a tough conversation because they probably ain't going to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
You know? But if you're dealing with people who want to be on the right side of history and want change and equity and equality for everybody, it's not a tough conversation. It's literally a conversation.
You better preach it. You better preach it, Kev. Okay. Okay.
So that one thing I wanted to clear the air with is I got that a lot from some of my white allies and friends that were, hey, I want to have a tough conversation. With them personally, hey, it's not a tough conversation. If you reached out to me, that means you want to help change, right? So it ain't that hard. It ain't that hard to have the conversation.
Yeah.
This shit that we fighting against that's tough.
Yeah.
But the conversation is not the hard part.
You better tell them.
Okay.
I'm just saying, you better say it.
You better.
That was right here. Okay.
Okay.
Holy moly. Okay, well, that put me in a mood. Okay, so, it was good. So, now, I guess we should just move on to the fun stuff, because now I'm feeling hype, because that was really a word you gave us. So, we're about to play a little game. Get your fun hat on. Get your fun hat on.
You don't want me to take this off, man. I'm bald. So
All right, you can leave your Eagles hat on. I guess they're fun. Okay, so we're about to play this or that or other. So we're going to give you two choices, and you can pick from the two choices, or if the choices are whack, you can go with other and tell us your other.
Okay.
So the first question, Martin or Fresh Prince or other?
Martin.
That's a good
Even
choice.
being from Philly, man, this is Martin all day.
Some people here are very large Martin fans.
I mean, it's two different types of shows. One, but Martin is definitely funnier than Fresh Prince. If you're looking for,
Martin's definitely funnier than Will Smith.
All right, you guys are all shenanay. Okay, up next, when you're working out, do you go with old school music, new school music, or other?
Brandon, by the way. New school music, and I love all music, but even being 30 plus, I'm not gonna say my age on here. Being 30 plus, I like to give all the new kids a shot, and a lot of their music I like. There's a lot of it that I don't like, but I like to give them a shot.
I do that all the time.
He listens to a lot of local new school people. I don't know them.
Man, he's a local Jersey dude for sure.
Yes, he is. Jersey all day over here. Okay, we're in summertime. You're at the barbecue. You got your plate. You got your drink. It's time to get your sides.
Okay.
Are you going potato salad, baked beans, or other? I've made you think.
I'm gonna go other.
What's your other?
So I was gonna go potato salad one because my mom makes some fire potato salad, but
Oh, great. Bring us a plate.
also makes fire mac and cheese, and I would rather have her mac and cheese than the potato salad. So that's what I'm going with. That's my other thing.
Does she make mac and cheese for the barbecue? I feel like mac and cheese is such a winter thing. I think I'm the only one.
It's heavy, and it's terrible when it's hot as hell outside. But
Yeah.
it's so good that you can't not have it. So, she makes it in the oven, just like you would during Christmas or Thanksgiving, whatever.
Yes.
And bring it out to the barbecue table because everybody needs it.
It'd be hot. That's all I have unless Brandon has a this, that, or other.
No, that was good.
Thank you.
I mean,
I know.
I wouldn't eat mac and cheese at a barbecue either, but.
I mean, if it's there, I'm going to eat it.
I'm pretty sure I just had mac and cheese at your
You
house.
sure did.
You did.
You sure did.
And
Yes. Yes.
I wasn't. People said it was good, but I wasn't trying to eat it.
It was fire. I ate a lot.
I'm like, it just
We'll
doesn't
let her
go.
know you love that.
Mac and cheese don't go with no
Definitely,
burgers.
man.
It's a hot dog.
Just to piggyback on it. Shouts out to Shipwreck Performance out in North Carolina, like the Fayetteville, Charlotte area.
Yes.
Big things. I call them the Wakanda of CrossFit or functional fitness, rather. So check them out.
Brandon brought that up, that gym. I've never been there. Brandon brought that gym up yesterday.
Do you want to shameless plug your
Oh, yes.
future
Shameless plug what you got going on.
business venture applications?
So I'll shameless plug everybody that's going on right now. for Black. Yeah, for me, community app. It is in production. That's what we're doing right now. It's an app where you can live stream police brutality or misconduct, and it goes directly to their superiors. We're working with the NAACP to get them on board as well, but we're also working with Richmond PD, Chicago PD, and hopefully soon NYPD. But right now, Richmond PD, Chicago PD are down to help us with the cause, and
Awesome.
hopefully we can save a life. That is the end goal.
Yeah.
After the George Floyd situation, we could no longer just sit idle, and it kind of kicked us into high gear. We were kind of working on it and talking through it, and then unfortunately George Floyd lost his life to a senseless act of violence and terror, and that kind of like kicked it into double time in terms of getting that done and published. So yeah, man, it's a team of us. It's not just me. I know I'm like the social media guy, but my business partner is Steven Dodge. He's a good colleague of mine. I've known him since college. He's a white dude who's down with the cause. See, it ain't that hard of a conversation because he came like, yo, listen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So if you are on the right side of history, it's not a hard conversation.
Yes.
So shout out to him, Steven Dodge. My homie Ankar is one of the main programming developers. He's a machine learning guy who I actually met through CrossFit. So it's a lot of heads, a lot of smart people come together for one unified solution. So community app, follow us, donate, share, subscribe, all of that.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kev, for being here, making time for And Lifting Color. And listen, it's not a tough conversation. It's just a conversation, okay?
It's not.
It's tougher to tell your kids that somebody died because they want to have a
Tell them. It's tougher to tell you. Listen, ooh, child, gonna take me to church, okay? He's embarrassed. That's okay. Thanks, Kev.
Thanks for tuning in. Lift and love all day, every day. Like and subscribe.